muksa, but not just geschmack. It's also one of the most, I would say, obscure topics in Hilchos Muksa. Most of the time, everything that we do over here, you have a Gemara, you learn the Gemara, and then from the Gemara it comes clear what's the Halachos of Bishul from Rishonim, and then we make the practical what comes out from the, we didn't have in the time of Chazal, they didn't have hot plates, and they didn't have microwaves, and they didn't have all the things that we have. But somehow you build the sugya, and from the sugya, you get to what we have till today. Today's one of those good examples of where we're going to try to do that, and who knows what's going to happen. It might get stuck, because today's sugya is very, very navaich. Throughout the Doiris, it was clearly a navaich sugya. The one thing, though, that's interesting is that it doesn't seem to be that any of the Rishonim or the early Achreinim had any problems, which is already some type of a key to understanding maybe what's going on here. In the Mishnah, this is a sugya which came up mamish over and over and over again, throughout the last 77 shiurim, right? 77. And throughout the last 77 shiurim, this is the 78th. Yeah, the 78th. What? It's a 78th. You guys don't know how to count. 78. What? 77? All right, 77. But that's the only mistake in today's shiur. Yeah, so throughout the last 77 shiurim, we took on countless times that a fire is muksa. It's not mamish. We've been saying that a fire is muksa 77 working days of saying fire is muksa, and we never felt the need to explain it because look, l'maisa. In the end of the day, everybody knows that a candle's muksa. Meaning a lit candle's muksa. Candle being muksa is a whole big shaila, but everybody knows that a fire is muksa. So what's the nafkamina? Why? In the end of the day, what's going to change in all 77 shiurim if I know why? So today we'll see if it makes a difference if you know why. But you all know that a candle's muksa, a fire's muksa. It's like, it's like the aleph base. It's like the aleph base. So there's a sugya over here in Daf Mem Hey, and it goes till Daf Mem Zayin. And basically the sugya over here seems to say that a ner is muksa. And this is the Mishnah brings. A ner, kol ner, the lashon of the Mishnah is a ner ain't metaltal in b'Shabbos. Kol neris, you're not allowed to be metaltal on Shabbos. And this is Omer Reb Shimon. Reb Shimon, what's the difference that it's Reb Shimon? Because Reb Shimon, we know, doesn't even hold the muksa. Like we found a muksa that even Reb Shimon agrees to. It's unbelievable. Even Reb Shimon agrees that you can't do metaltal and ner, at least a lit ner. You can't be metaltal and ner on Shabbos. And this intrigued the Gemara. Why can't I metaltal a fire on Shabbos? What's wrong with a fire on Shabbos? Could you think of anything more usable in the world than a fire? It's the most usable thing in the world. In those days, there's electricity, they didn't have lights, they didn't have didn't have any of this. And so Miller, if they wanted to see what they do, so they lit an air. Could you think of anything more usable than an air? If I had to give an example of what's bivadai not muksa, I would use an air. No, the most usable thing in the world. And you'll think I'm wrong. So on Yontif is a fire muksa on Yontif. Of course, a fire is not muksa on Yontif. It's the most mutter thing in the world. And that's everyone knows. If you have a leichtes on the table and they have fire, and you got to take the leichtes off the table, you got to take them on avada. Do you have to have a tzarech gufa? You don't have to have any tzarech. Why? Because fire is the most usable thing. It's the most wonderful thing. So I think it's mamish kal v'chomer. If on Yontif, mamish kal v'chomer, no? If on Yontif that you're even allowed to light from another lamp, from another fire. So if I get stuck, so I don't even need this candle so much. Mashenkin, this candle that I need, it's the biggest kal v'chomer in the world. I need it 50 times more than I need on Shabbos, on Yontif. On Yontif, I don't really need this candle. I could just go and get a different candle. So if on Yontif it's not muksa, which everybody knows that a fire is not muksa on Yontif. So then at least you know it now. But if a fire is not muksa on Yontif, so if a fire is not muksa on Yontif, it's mamish like a kal v'chomer on Shabbos, right? The only thing is, it says not like that in the Mishnah, right? So this is the kasha. This is the kasha. This is the kasha that really the Gemara metaltal and ner chadash. The Gemara says Reb Shimon Omer kol ner is metaltal chutz min ner doilik b'Shabbos. You're allowed to carry around any fire, any candle. Excuse me. He's talking about a light. That's his shita. Reb Shimon doesn't hold the muksa. Any candle you're allowed to carry around on Shabbos, right? Except for what? Except for one that's actually lit on Shabbos. This is the shita of Reb Shimon. That's the Shita Reb Shimon. Okay. So if the Gemara is bothered and the Gemara says, what's going on here? The Gemara fact the kasha. In fact, the Gemara, what's the reason why? The Gemara can't understand. What's the reason why you're not allowed to be metaltal in there on Shabbos? So the Gemara says, maybe, the Gemara tries like a few eights over here. So the Gemara says, well, maybe, the Gemara starts on Memvav on the base. And the Gemara says, well, I'll tell you why. Maybe it's because if you're going to carry around the candle, so then as you're carrying it around, it's going to go out. It's going to go out. So Shemi Yechaber. Like there's a problem, Shem Yechaber, right? What's the problem? The problem is that maybe when you're going to carry around the candle, so maybe the candle's going to go out. Yeah. So the Gemara says that can't be. That can't be because this is the Reb Shimon. Who knows who's Reb Shimon? Reb Shimon, you look on the side over here, the Mesiras Hashas, you get almost like a headache. It's like about 30 places. This is the sheet of Reb Shimon that all over Einai Miskavin is mutter. That's the sheet of Reb Shimon that all over the place Einai Miskavin is mutter. So it can't be Reb Shimon because it's not a psik ratio that when you carry around the fire is going to go out. It's only Einai Miskavin that it's going to go out. So therefore, it's Einai Miskavin, and therefore it can't be that this is the reason for Reb Shimon. Which Derech Agav prompted Rabbi Kiva Eger. He says he doesn't understand. Rashi in the Mishnah over here says, what's the reason why you're not allowed to carry around the ner? So Rashi says, you know why? Zot Rashi chutz me'an ner. Says Rashi, because Shema Yechabe, because maybe the fire is going to go out. Maybe the candle is going to go out. So Rabbi Kiva Eger asked the Kasha, he says, that's not going to be the Maskanas of Gemara. The Gemara and the Havamina held that the reason why you're not allowed to carry around the lit fire is because maybe the fire is going to go out. But then the Gemara said that can't be because we're going in Reb Shimon. Reb Shimon Moldaina Miskavin is mutter. It's something that's not psik ratio. It's only Ein Miskavin, so it's mutter. So why does Rashi explain in Kafida Havamina? So Rabbi Kiva Eger says a big klal. He says, I can't ask my Kasha on Rashi because Rashi, it's the style of Rashi sometimes to explain Kafida Havamina. He says, but I'm asking on the Rav, on the Bartanura. It's not the style of the Rav Bartanura to do that. So Rabbi Kiva Eger says, I'm asking my kasha on the Rav. I'm not asking my kasha on Rashi. But Al Kapanim on Rashi does on the Rav, on the Bartanura, he asks the kasha. Okay, a kasha, whoever has a teret, ayin the Pnei Yeshua. It's not a negay in Pshat Halacha. Okay, but Al Kapanim, the Gemara goes weiter. So Gemara says, so why in the world are you not allowed to carry around the fire on Shabbos? Like as if to ask, it's a pella. Why shouldn't I be allowed to carry a ner on Shabbos, a fire on Shabbos? It's the most usable, wonderful thing. Even if it goes out, it's not a psik ratio. So what's the problem in carrying a fire? So then the Gemara says a very, very strong statement. Amar Rava, hanach laner, leave it alone. A ner, don't talk about it. A ner in this context means the holder, the lighter. Hanach the ner, hanach the shemen, leave the oil, leave the candle, leave the wick, the psila, leave it all alone. Hoil, the nase, basis, ladavar aser. It's all aser because they're all a basis for the fire, which is aser. The Gemara didn't answer anything. B'tzarchi and gadol. The Gemara, imagine somebody asks you and says to you, why are you not allowed to turn on a light on Shabbos? Says, leave it alone. You're not allowed to, you can't drive on Shabbos, you can't do boyer on Shabbos, right? So for shteitzach, you're also not allowed to drive on Shabbos. You didn't answer the kasha. The Gemara asked the kasha. The Gemara said, what's the reason why you're not allowed to carry fire? So the Gemara says, leave fire. It's pashut. Leave fire. Because the Gemara doesn't even say leave fire. Leave the candle, leave the wick, leave the oil, because they're all naseh, buses for the fire. And the fire, of course, that's muksa. Why lama? Why is the fire muksa? This is the gross kasha. The big pella, you see where we are. Mamash, you always want to know, what does it mean that there's like, you read this Hatayrus? What does it mean you read this Hatayrus? You see people like Chaim, and you saw, I was zeicha to see Rav Elyashiv. I'm not masig that Rav Moshe was bigger, but I have a mood he was bigger. I can't masig that somebody could be bigger than Rav Elyashiv. I can't masig it. I have a moon. I know that he was bigger. I have no suffix that Rav Moshe was bigger. But I can't understand that somebody could be bigger. What's bigger? Well, what's bigger? If you knew everything, and so what's bigger? I don't know. But you have a muna. So you want to know what's the Yeridas Hadaris? What's Yeridas Hadaris? Yeridas Hadaris says is that all the Gedolim in our door, all of the Gedolim, Shemipiyah Maruchayim, and that we drink from everything they say, they all don the shaila. What's shot in the Gemara? Came out in the Gemara. Why is a fire muksa? Before our door, no one talked about the shaila. It's an amazing thing. It's an amazing thing. You don't find Rishonim, you don't find Achronim. There's no Pnei Yeshua about this. There's no Marim Hugi Dugi about this. There's nobody that discussed the shaila until the Chazon Ish. And the first one that really talks about the shaila. And the Chazon Ish in Siman Mem Aleph, the Chazon Ish is very busy about this. In Sif Tazayim, why is a fire muksa? Mamash is saying shot in the Gemara. Why is it fire? Ricky Veger wasn't bothered. He said something was so pashut to everybody over here. That means whatever you're going to hear has to be so pashut that the Chmeini was not nitten l'kasiv until the last door when we're a door yasim and we're a weaker door. So that's the big shaila. Why is a fire muksa? Why is a fire muksa? So comes again Rebbe, the Zainish. And he is Meir Derech over here. So what I'm going to quote today from the Chazon Ish is all in that siman in Mem Aleph Tazayin. And what I'm going to quote, the Rav Shlomo Zalman has kushiyas and kushiyas upon kushiyas upon kushiyas. And he's all in the Mincha Shloima in the 14th siman over there, which is a very big siman over there. He's also in the Me'orah Eish in many, many places. And his nidin is on this. The Chazon Ish says, you see Baruch that the Chazon Ish held this is a big shaila and it's not pasha. because he has so many malachim. Reb Chaim Soloveitchik, somebody once told him, he asked the kasha. Reb Chaim asked the kasha. So the person answered to, you can say like this, so, or this, right? So Reb Chaim told him, if you have 3 terutzim, it's a chazaka that the kasha is a good teretz. The kasha is a good kasha, right? If you have 3 terutzim already, and each one of them is not, the same exact teretz. So then for Shtetzach, it's a raya brura that the kasha is a good kasha. So the Chazon Ish over here has 3 mahalchim, he says inami. Maybe I saw that Chayim don't learn, I'm about to say. And then buttle to them. Maybe he meant it's all one big idea. Maybe we'll see. But the Chazon Ish has 3-4 mahalchim over here to explain why is a fire muksa. So the Chazon Ish has 3 mahalchim to explain why is a fire muksa, and none of them are the same mahalach. So then obviously it shows you it's a very good shot. Why is a fire muksa? Why should a fire be muksa? So the Chazon Ish comes along, and the Chazon Ish says, because it's ein derech, I'm quoting the Lashon now, ein derech l'taltel ner shema yechaber. It's not the derech to carry around the light, because maybe it's going to go out. So therefore, it's not the derech to carry it around. It's not a bar tiltel. Nope. Anybody have a kasha on that? What? The Gemara said not like that, right? The Gemara a second ago said that we're not worried about Shema Yechaber, and we passed in Malacha, we're not worried about Shema Yechaber. How many times did you hear in this room that you're allowed to pick up the leichte tray, assuming that it's not a basis, even when the candles are lit, as long as you do it slowly and whatever? How many times we spoke about this? Because it's not a psik reisha. So if there's no Shema Yechaber, we hold it's not a Shema Yechaber. What? Oh, so says Rabbi Rosenberg, and this is your Makavin Ter Shlomo Zalman, be careful. Okay? Next time you're Makavin, you have to make a kiddush, okay? Watch it. We're backlogged from Rabbi Poki's kiddushim, so that's why you got off. But just be careful. Be careful. So you were makavin to Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, and Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, he says that avada de Chazon Ish does not mean that there's a gzeira shami yechaber, you're afraid the light is going to go out. He means, like Rabbi Rosenberg is saying, that it's not the derech to, it's taka true, right? I imagine it's really, at least in their time, it was definitely true, right? They didn't have electricity, they didn't have lights and everything. So avada person was very, very, he cheshboned very well. Is it kedai for me to walk around with this candle, before I would walk it around, because it's going to go out. It's going to go out. So it's not kedai for him. It was certainly on Shabbos when he won't be able to relight it. Okay, maybe on a different day he'll just be able to relight it. But certainly if he would have been allowed to carry around the candle on Shabbos, I imagine that when people carry around trays on Shabbos with a candle in those days, they probably thought twice and 3 times before they did it. Because if it goes out, I don't have light. So therefore, not a halacha that Shema Yechaber, but it's not the derech of people. And then the emes says, you look inside the Chazon Ish and you see that it's the emes of Pshat. That it's not the derech for people to be metaltal. And since it's not the derech for people to be metaltal, because it might go out, so therefore he says it's not a bar tiltal. That's the first answer of the Chazon Ish. Sorry? So the Chazon Ish comes up here, he coins a new phrase, a new muksa. He says that this is a new type of muksa. You all remember this muksa of the Chazon Ish, that this is a new muksa called something that I put in its place and I don't move it. New muksa. This is a new muksa. It's not chasar and kiss. Because chasar and kiss, at first I was thinking it's not so extreme what the Chazon Ish is saying, because it's not like we saw the Chazon Ish said if you have a picture that you put and you never move, even though you're not careful mitzad the kilkol, the Chazon Ish held that that's considered a muksa, which is a chiddush. That's against that's against the paiskin. That chiddush is against the paiskin. Just give me 1 second. But here you could hear it a little bit more. The Chazon Ish is saying here it's not just like a picture that I put there so that I could see it. Here I bedavka am careful not to move it, like ke'ein a chesrin kiss. Now the Chazon Ish goes on and does unbelievable chedushim with this. He went further with the chiddush. If you would have just kept it a local chiddush, it's not so wild. It's not so wild. It's quite muzbar. It's quite muvan, right? It's a very moving chiddush. I don't move around candle because, and I'm not the gomer not to move it around because I don't want it to go out. What are you saying?
I was going to ask that isn't strong enough to make it.
Come again? So that chefza becomes a chefza of a non-bar tiltal. So she becomes a muksa machmas gufa, something like a stone. I don't move, and therefore everybody under is bottle. Everybody under is bottle. What? It says you're saying that you understand the Chazon Ish. That's how I explain the Chazon Ish. The Chazon Ish himself goes on to take this into a very, very broad chiddush. He says therefore you can't move a picture on the wall. I think that's a big jump. I can hear a fire is like a chesrin kiss. I'm very careful not to move it. It's interesting. The Chazon Ish's malach is day muvan. I never realized this until last night. until this afternoon, actually, when I looked into this a little bit. I never realized this because I always put the Chazon Ish says this chiddush, he puts it all together as one big chiddush. Something that you don't move, that becomes muksa. Even if you don't have a kaveda not to move it, but you make it a place, that becomes muksa, like kilu, you were kaveya makaimai, whatever. And I always knew that the Chazon Ish came from his idea on fire. But the Maisa, you see it inside, the Chazon Ish's chiddush is not this. The chiddush is the jump to everything else. To go and say that that's muksa, that clock over there is muksa because I put it there and I never move it. That's a murdik chiddush. I have no reason to leave it there. I leave it there because it's convenient. I leave it there because everybody wants to see it. I leave it there because, but a fire, I'm bedafka. I don't move a fire. I don't move a fire. What?
That should depend on each person.
So this is a problem. Rabbi Stender says, but Rav Shlomo Zalman, the Minchas Shleiman Alf Yudal, he's so not happy about this. It's a huge chiddush because then each and every case we're going to have to start daning, right? Each and every case we have to start dan. I don't know, each person you have to dan. Let's say I tell you, I know me. You can't tell me, don't tell me what to do. Muksa is telling each and every person. So that's like the aleph base over here, especially of Chesed and Kiss. That's why it could be the Chazon Ish had to come on to this new idea of, putting a mokim and I don't know, something like that. But anyways, but the Shlomo Zalman says, I'm not willing to accept this because he says each and every person should now be asked, are you careful or not? So the fellow will say, listen, it's more kedai for me to take the chance. B'haraya, I'd be willing to take the chance, right? So each and every person you're gonna have to ask, and muksa should be dependent on each and every person. And the Shlomo Zalman not thrilled with this. Again, we're working against the tide over here, Rabbi say. We're trying to figure out, but let's, then Rav Chazon Ish goes on, and he says a second mahalach. Again, I'm losing my cheshek to believe it's different mahalchim. I'm starting to actually believe it's like one idea in the Chazon Ish, but that you have to have a lot of amunah for. But the Chazon Ish goes on and he says in Inami, he says, well, I'll tell you why this thing is muksa. Because the ishtamshis of a candle is bin koimai. How do you use a fire? Again, you guys have to get nostalgic a little bit and go back to, it's always so geschmack when there's a blackout. I mean, we don't ask for it, right? But no, I shouldn't have said that. but it's always geschmack because then you see what it was and you start to understand a lot of the sugyas that you're talking about and what it is to have just a candle. And, there's a certain nostalgic height to having it. They had candles on the table. And how did you use a candle on the table? You use a candle and you don't move it. You keep it in its place. I can't offer an opinion about this, Rabbi said, because I have electricity. I grado when there was a blackout, I did move it around. It went from this part of the table to that part of the table. Yeah, okay. I don't fully understand what I'm saying, but these are the words in the Chazon Ish. He says, it's a shtamshus bim koimai. I guess it's not something that for its shtamshus has to be moved. Okay, right away. Comes again, going to Shlomo Zalman, and he says, okay, and what if you have a glass lantern, or something like that. You have a fire in a lantern, which is a normal thing. We'll see soon about a flashlight, right? But you have a glass lantern. So you don't have any of the reasons of the Chazon Ish. I can move it around because the wind is not going to put it out. You made a lantern, right? But dafka, you put a glass wall around it so that nothing's going to put it out. And he says, and as far as tiltul bin koimai, this is a nair that I dafka use as I walk around. And I do matal bin koimai. So it should be told in each and every person. There should be tnoyim, like you're saying, Rabbi Stender, it's nice, should be moil. There should be an umdana. If you see that I always move it around, there's an umdana, there's a standas that I move it around, not very happy. Shlomo Zalman not very happy. What?
See that nobody's careful.
Sorry?
The whole world isn't careful.
What are we talking about? A candle? Or?
Again,
Okay, because today we have electricity, so maybe today. So Rabbi Gindi comes and says, and today? Today, I'm not going to be careful because I could care less if it goes out. I have electricity anyways. It says, Nishtet Gewelt, life will go weiter. If it goes out, life will go on. Okay, it's all part of the umdana that. Okay. That does alone won't be a kasha on the Chazon Ish. In other words, that won't be a kasha on the Chazon Ish. That'll just say that maybe it wouldn't apply. If it's really true that it's shimash is bim koimai, or it's true that it's like in the Balabatishkai, people just don't move candles because they go out when you move them and whatever, right? So then maybe Yontif shouldn't be any different for Shlomo Zalman. Why is Yontif any different? We know Yontif for sure there is not muksa. Why not? Why not? If the reason is it's ishtamshus bim koimai, so Yontif is different. Why is Yontif any different? Okay, all these things you could like bedoichik answer, but the kashas are definitely kashas. This is the second mahalach over here. Then okay, and what about Rabbi Isai? We can fight the fact. And what happens if they light a candle for a chayla? If you light a candle for a chayla, let's say Erev Shabbos, they lit a candle for a chayla, or on Shabbos, whatever, it doesn't matter. But they lit a candle for a chayla. So for sure you're going to be moving around that candle on Shabbos, right? You planned on lighting the candle for the chayla. Now, you know, obviously, the halacha is if you light a candle for a chayla, you're only allowed to move it for the chayla. You can't stop moving it. Why? Ein lecha light, ein lecha fire. This is the most shimushi dika candle. It's aimed the shtamish. It's tanai umdin gemura that about it's aimed to be mishtamish. Okay, so these are all kashas. These are all kashas. These are all kashas. These are all kashas. Okay. Come again? Oh, so then the Chazon Ish comes along, and Chazon Ish tries another mahalach. That's how you know maybe it's not the same mahalach, because this one is really very not sounding like the other two mahalach. He says, and another problem is noilad. What does it mean, noilad? When you know from the, every yeshiva bacher, he turns into like a physicist once you give him a little like lumdus and whatever. So you have to start figuring out now. He says a candle, a fire, the fire that was there a second ago is not the same fire. It's a different fire, right? And who's the physicist here wants to explain it? Anybody? Samer Shtamol, what? Shalmiak, you want to explain it? All right, Dosi, you want to explain it? What? You can explain it. All right, so this is being shy. What? Says what? Oh, the Gemara Beis says that when you take two rocks and you put it together, that makes it. Here he's saying when the fire is, it's lichtig already, it's lit. The Gemara says that's true. The Gemara does say that. It's true. But the Gemara, at that point, the Gemara says that. Okay, I'm saying, that's what it says in the Chazon Ish. It's true. The Gemara does say at that point, but the Maskana, it's not Mucha. But anyway, just a moment. So that, you want to explain the physics? Or? Okay. The Chazon Ish says it, so that's it. Ani Mamin says Rabbi Gindi b'Emunah Shleima. If the Chazon Ish says it, so it does. Right? So now, it's noilad. What's the dust of noilad? The second ago you had one fire. Das fire is nicht derselbe fire. So under the fire, as I decide, this fire is nicht gevendu. It's a noilad, and says the Chazon Ish. Therefore, that's why it's muksa, which is a little scary. That's such a good reason. Kilu, if it's true, right? That's such a good reason, and the first two reasons are batal mavutal. So this is, when you have three mahalchim in a kasha. So we have three mahalchim. So what does it show? It shows that the kasha is a very good kasha, right? Oh, so Fred comes again, Rosh Hashanah. He says, so then why is it mutter on Yontif? Noilad is not mutter on Yontif. Noilad is not mutter on Yontif. You know that. You're allowed to go and strike a match on Yontif? No. So Noilad is not mutter on Yontif. So this kasha, it's nicht the worst kasha. And I think the Minchas Yitzchak, I'm not sure if I wrote it down, but the Minchas Yitzchak, I think also, he said that's not the worst kasha. There's a different type of noilad on Yontif, what they did aser, and there's a type of noilad that they didn't aser. There's the noilad that they aser on Yontif is a noilad of a yesh me'ayin. When it comes out of nowhere, like the fire, by fire, the kolapachas, right? But that's borrow in Ilchas Yontif, that you're allowed to take a fire from a fire, right? You're allowed to make a fire. So you see that there's some level, why, whatever, don't know, deal with it. But you see that there's some level that you can, Kivyachol create a fire, right? Kivyachol, there's clearly an oif that you are allowed to create a fire, you're allowed to take a fire, that we know. So Vaistais, the noilad klap a fire, that the Chazal aser, the Torah aser, the Ksav says, whatever it is, that aser, that oiser, was vice nice, a yesh me'ayin. When you take two stones, you take a match, and you had no fire, now you get a fire. So then I decide that's not the worst. So can you understand I could take a fire from one match to another one? Right? So then you understand that if I have this fire itself, the next second won't be called the noilad klape the second before. Okay. What's that? Why? Yeah. Okay. That's that, and that's what Rosh Hashanah says. So Maisa, we're in a big baya. So why is a fire muksa? This is a big baya. So what do you do? We tried the Chazon Ish. What do you do if it doesn't work in the Chazon Ish? What do you do? Right? What do you do? I told you go back towards Sinai. You're not going to get an answer to your kasha, right? So what do you do after the Chazon Ish? You're going now toward Mashiach. So what now? Right? Who now? Ramosha, obviously, Ramosha, right? If you read the Chazon Ish, and Shlomo Zalman has 9 kashas on the Chazon Ish. 9 kashas, and okay, some of them you could say are doichik, some of them are not. Okay. So Ramosha and Gimel, and these Ramoshas are monumentous. They're not just Ramoshes, they're part of our Messiah, these Ramoshes. Ramosha, he writes like this, he says, Ramosha's in Gimel Siman Nun. Remember, there's a bunch of Ramoshes. I'll try today to do what I can. I need an Igrish Moshe Chelik Ches. Anybody wants Chelik Ches from Dar Chaim? Thank you. Thank you so much. Kayanim's reason, maybe. That's why he's gone. So the Ramosha and Gimel Nun, Ramosha says, I'll tell you why it's not Muksa. I'll tell you why it's Muksa, because it's not a Kli. That does, there's a certain simplicity in this Rav Moshe. Like nobody's ever bothered by this because it was Pashit, right? I guess Noilev is a shtickle Chiddush. He's, in Kviyas Makim, these things of the Chazon Ish are Chiddush, right? Rav Moshe's teretz, you sort of like appreciate a bit more because it's not a Kli. Vasais is not a Kli because it's, it's not a Kli. Why is it not a Kli? Anybody know? Rav Moshe doesn't say why. Rav Moshe just writes it's not a Kli and that's it, right? Obviously, you realize that if you're going to go like this, it's going to start to be a lot easier to start mantering up lamps and things like that, which very well might, be a Kli, right? You understand? But why is it not a Kli? Who wants to say why? Why? He says it's not a Kli. It's not a Kli. What? No, so it's no, but the Aleph Beis of Hilchos Muktzah, something has to be. Derech Agav, I forgot to say, another tiny Rosh Shlomo Zalman has on the Chazon Ish by Neulad. Another tiny the Chazon Ish has is he says, thank you so much. Another tiny that the Chazon Ish has when it comes to Neulad is the Chazon Rosh Shlomo Zalman has a Chazon Ish is he says Neulad. What's the makor of Neulad? Why is there a problem of Neulad? Because it says in the parsha a few weeks ago, yes sir. It says vechino. It has to be muchan. Muchan, something that's Neulad wasn't muchan before Shabbos. He says, Ein lecha muchan gadol mizeh. You lit the fire before Shabbos. So you found the nace, you found the meifis, you found the muchan, you found the Neulad, which was muchan, right? You found a Neulad, which is muchan. It was muchan before Shabbos. You did a maisa to go and to get this fire. So therefore it is muchan. Okay. Like upon him. But Ramosha says it's not a Kli. It's also the Ramosha, a ner, a fire is nisht kain Kli. So you're asking, so then it's not a Kli, it's not a ner. No, it's not a Kli. And the Aleph Beis in Hilchos Muktzah is that in order to be something usable for Shabbos, it has to be something that's miyuchad as a Kli. So that's not a Kli. It's not a Kli. What? Come again? So food's not a Kli, but food's a special category. The food's not Muktzah. Food's not Muktzah because Chazal never were geyser on Muktzah. Now you understand the amkus of Chazal. They weren't geyser on food. The truth is interesting. I saw the Shvus Yitzchak in the 200 and something page, 10th page. No, I didn't write that. I didn't write down where. He says, he doesn't understand Rabbi. He says, dirt is also not a Kli. Dirt is not a Kli. Well, you look in Hilchos Tayr, dirt is not a Kli. Right? And he says, and if you go in Miyachid sandboxes, how much did we talk about this, Rabbi Say? So then it's not Muktzah. What? You're saying something else. We'll get to what you're saying, Rabbi Spira. The whole Halachos of the Shiur is just to get to what Rabbi Spira says. We're almost there. I'm almost there. But dirt, he says dirt is not a Kli. Dirt is obviously not a Kli, right? Rabbi said dirt is not a Kli. It's still the tire. Dirt is not a Kli. All of a sudden, Hilchos Muktzah. So if you miyachid it before Shabbos, it's not Muktzah. So b'zayah fire also. If you're miyachid it before Shabbos, so then why is it Muktzah? So I'm not sure what he means. I'm not sure he means. You look at my Paiskim, you look at my Rishonim, you look at my Achreinim, they talk about dirt, and they say, until you're miyachid it, it's not a Kli. Once you're miyachid it, it's a Kli. Who says the word Kli in Hilchos Shabbos is the same as every, that's what we always spoke about. You have the koyach to be miyachid, and you're miyachid it, that's the Kli. Selamai, you'll say maybe by fire. So say the same thing by fire, right? Fight fire with fire, right? You'll say the same thing by a fire, right? No, what? That's a different teretz. You're saying something else. That's a teretz of Neulad. Rav Moshe is saying it's not a Kli. Rav Moshe is saying not a Kli. What? So that's what I just said. So whatever answer you're going to answer, I'm saying, So whatever answer you're going to answer, you have to answer on this anyway. So we didn't gain much, but I mean, you can't. He just says it's not called a Kli, and you don't need a Kli. That's not true. You do need a Kli. So he's asking the question correctly, but you're saying whatever the pshat is. So why can't I say I was miyachid for use and whatever? So now we got to go weiter. So Shlomo Zalman, sorry.
But even if you're not going to be out, what's muktzah? It's not a physical thing.
Oh, okay. So you're saying what Rabbi Spire is saying. I see that the Olam wants this answer. So I'll go right to it. So Shlomo Zalman, about 90 places, like everywhere where someone's going to get a chance to talk about this is what he said. Maria Eish, in the Morah HaShabbos, some of them I'll mention later, the Makaris. Everywhere. Shlomo Zalman loved this. He says that everywhere, mamish everywhere. Shlomo Zalman said it's not a Kli because it's aimed by mamish. There's no mamashis to it. Now, Derech Agav, the Orchos Shabbos, in the 19th parak in the 241st ois. He says fire is not a kli because he says Rav Moshe is incorrect. Interesting. I don't know why he doesn't say Rav Shlomo Zalman's incorrect, but okay. He says Rav Moshe is incorrect. They say the same thing, really. But he says he's incorrect. So what's the reason once and for all? Why is a fire not, why is it muksa? He says because the fire is something that you're scared of and you stay away from it. And therefore you stay away from a fire. You stay away from a fire. That's what he says. You have a fear of a fire. Some people have fear of knives. I'm saying there are people you can go to for this, Rabbi Isai. The fact that you're afraid, and you know what the 8 says? If you're afraid of fire, so you know what you do? Don't touch the fire. You know what you can do? Touch the thing that touch the handle, and then you don't have anything to be scared about, right? You could just touch the lighter, and you could hold the fire. So why is that a reason to be afraid of fire? I don't know. This to me sounds like a little bit like that, right? I don't know. But Rosh Shlomo Zalman says it's ein by mamish. Now you're talking, meaning ein by mamish is already a word that there's nothing there. So Chazal were geyser on this nothingness, kivyachol. Okay, it's interesting. What? Sorry. But again, I'm not. Whatever I'm going to say today, everybody say, we're gonna maybe I'll be most of something. But what? It's a mamish. There's no mamashis to it. It's not tangible. It's not tangible. Maybe this is what Orach Shabbos means. That's why I mentioned it now. You can't touch it. Maybe there's nothing to touch. It's not a bar tiltal, bechefza. I don't know. Maybe you can't hold it. You can't typhus it. It's don't know. Even Yisrael Yanke Fisher in Teschaf Aleph, he says that lashon you can't be typhus it. I don't know. What? Air and Chani, so there's no touching of air, but there's no problem. Well, the balloon becomes a chefza, so the balloon is what? You're getting me nostalgic. But what's your shayla about smoke in a bottle? Smoke in a bottle. Smoke in a bottle. Why isn't smoke in a bottle? I mean, I'm not sure if that's so true. What? There is a mamosh. There's no answer of fire either. What's the answer? Wait, what's the answer of fire? You could also, because you could do an isser, that's a whole new reason. You're saying a whole new reason. You're saying the whole reason why fire is muksa is because you could do evil things with fire. So what? Yeah, but not the smoke I had in the bottle. Maybe it was just a little bit. He's talking about my smoke. A few bottles, not going to kill it. Are you fires and everybody say this. Let me explain to you. Everybody say, I'm doing whatever I can. I'm just trying. No, it's taka very schnell, very schnell. Weiss. Should I tell you what the answer is? The answer is that when I asked the Shayla Rabbi Yashiv, I asked him, why is a fire muksa? He said, ich weiß nicht. It was the only time ever that I asked Rabbi Yashiv a question that he said the words, ich weiß nicht. I didn't know that he knew the words, ich weiß nicht. It was mamish like, I didn't know, it was a pella. I was the person that got to ask Rabbi Yashiv a question that he said, ich weiß nicht too. Right? Stumped the Rebbe. Ich weiß nicht. So I say, with das ich weiß nicht, kommt das Sach. With dem ich weiß nicht, kommt das Sach. Because Rabbi Yashiv, as a result of this, Rabbi Yashiv had a lot of chumras when it came to fire. Because he said he doesn't know the reason why. Chazal were not megala to the reason why. And Animam and B'muna Shlema, that they have a reason. And they decide, whatever the reason is, there is a reason. And it doesn't matter. But now that you have the picture, now let's try to apply it. And now we start. Sorry? The Shvus Yitzchak is in page 170. Sorry? Rabbi Shlomo Zalman says it's not a clean, therefore it's muksa. Rabbi Shlomo Zalman says muksa. The Gemara says it's muksa. It says muksa. It's muksa. Why is it muksa? Because it's not clean. Okay, comes again Rav Moshe. Rav Moshe is like a gewaldige limud into Gdolei Ador. It's a great limud, this Rav Moshe. Rav Moshe is brought in this, Rabbi Badner's Truvas over here, they're brought in Chav Beis. This one's brought in Chav Beis. Thank you, Rabbi Gindig. In Chelik Hey, Chav Beis, I think this one's Islam Vav. This one's quoted in the book. Toward the end of here, he says, Tiltum in Mutal Taltal Ner Electri. Ner Electri. Derech Agav, this was written in 1984, 1985. I did a little homework today. It seems to be that it was mamish, 90, 95, 90%. Mamish, the roiv rubai of the lamps and things like that were all incandescent bulbs. And fluorescents, there were fluorescents then, but they were not, the fluorescents were not used in small things. They were used in big fluorescents and things like that. Well, obviously we're talking about LEDs, but they were used as like ceiling lights. It wasn't the common use. That means when Ramosha was being asked a question, at least in the 1980s, he was talking about an incandescent. What's the difference in incandescent? Incandescent in halacha has a din of a fire, as a din of an eish. You can make a bari mera eish on an incandescent bulb because, if you have in there, the coil gets red hot, and anybody who learned here Bishul, everybody learned Bishul because we did Bishul in the summer. You made up all the shiur, right? You made it. So we learned Bishul in the summer's man, and in summer's man, when we learned the Bishul, we saw that the Rambam brings down, the Mishabur brings it in Akdama, that the Rambam says you have a red hot coil that you fire up red hot. So then that's mamish mevashel, that's havara, you're over on mavir, that's eish, and Reb Chaim Moshe used to make a bari me'oira eish on an incandescent bulb because it's a red fire. You turn it on, the whole electricity, Shali, you're allowed to turn on electricity, midrabanan and deraisa. Everyone agrees that when you're turning on a fire, when you're turning on an incandescent bulb, that's an issa deraisa according to all the person that ever lived and ever should live because that's a fire. That's a fire. It's a big difference in Allah. We'll see in a minute. So they asked Ramosha this question on it, because we're going to have to don everything separately. A fluorescent bulb, the way it works is there's a spark, and that's why there might be an issa deraisa that turned on, right? But then afterward, the light that you're seeing as a result of the spark is with gas and protons and croutons. I can't explain these things to you people, right? So but that's not a fire. That's not a fire. It could be an issa deraisa that turned it on, but you can't make a bari me'oria eish on an incandescent bulb, and kafachayim on a lead bulb. Lead is probably only drabanan ba'alam lefir shleim zam dechazidishul device. Okay, but it's definitely not an age. Okay, but they didn't have LEDs then, and fluorescent wasn't what Ramosha was talking about. This is what I understand. So he says like this. He says, no, are you in mutter near electric? You got to move around a fire. A lamp on Shabbos. Okay, so in the book, Rabbi Badner, inside his sefer, I didn't write down where because I forgot to write it down. But in the book, Rabbi Badner writes, it's a fire. So you can't move it, not tzarek ufa, not tzarek mekayma, like a fire. You're allowed to move a fire, not tzarek ufa, not tzarek mekayma. So he says any lamp, okay, any incandescent for sure, you're not allowed to move around, not l'tzarek ufa, not l'tzarek mekayma. Yigrat doesn't make a chilik, we'll see, incandescent, not. He says you're not allowed to move it around, tzarek ufa, tzarek mekayma. He says, what's my makor? What's my makor? So he says, Makor, Ramosha Feinstein. Look in the back of my book and you'll see the tshuvas. There's an art scroll book on books. There's an art scroll book that was written by Rabbi Cohen from Lakewood. And over there, he writes that you're allowed to move around the lamp. We'll see, maybe only tzaraku from Makoyma. But he says it's not a fire. You're allowed to move around a lamp. How do I know? How do I know? You want to guess? Who wants to guess? What? What's Gimel Nun? No. Wait 1 second. Where's the art scroll book? The art scroll is in the 12th parak in our test. Are you allowed to move around the lamp? He says, mutter. How do I know? I saw Rav Moshe Feinstein do it. That's pretty good. That's very good. What does he say? Yeah? Well, let's see. All right. Thank you. Let's see. 12, 9. Where is she? Here. But where's 9? Therefore, it may be moved. He says it's a malachta le'eser. We'll see why. But it's not like Rabbi Badner says. He says, how do I know? Kain re'isi be'enai. I saw it with the Moshe Feinstein Zechron Levrach. I saw him do it. And also, we'll see in a minute, I saw Rav Moshe do it. That's it. If you see Rav Moshe do it, let's say you see Rav Moshe eating something, right? And it says on the outside of the package, chazer, oink, oink. Right? Oink, oink. So what do? So you sit down, you tell Rav Moshe, pass the food. Because it's mutter if Rav Moshe did it. So then Rav Moshe did it. If Rav Moshe did it, it's mutter. So he saw Rav Moshe carrying around the light. So then it's mutter. Sorry? Let's see. Let's try to understand what he saw as opposed to seeing, try to say what he didn't see. Let's see. Akapanim. So what do you do here? Because Rabbi Badner says that Rav Moshe told him it's aser. Where did Rav Moshe tell him it's aser? So, like I said, you look in the back of the book, and they bring the tshuva over here. We bring the tshuva also. Me'ikar adin mutter. Okay. So then that taka sounds like the art school book, right? Me'ikar adin mutter. Achein. Kevan diyesh or shal ner aser. Mikra, then it's mutter. But Kavan, that there's a fire in there, because he's going, like I said, probably an incandescent Aser. Why? Kavan the Asi Lachlufi. Now you know what Ramosh is. He made a Gzera. Now you know how big Ramosh is. Who here can make a Gzera? Who here can make a Gzera? If you make a Gzera, you'll be a weird guy. Right? What are you making a Gzera for? Who do you think you are to make a Gzera? Adam Marishan already, there's a tiny on him. He told her not to touch the tree. Right? He didn't say not to touch the tree, just said don't eat from the tree. Akash Baruch Hu said, because he said don't touch the trees, already eaten. Ramosha can make a Gzera, because Ramosha said a fire, a fire is certainly not allowed to move. And certainly everybody tried to figure out why in the world not. So who's going to understand the difference? I'm telling you, if you turn on a lamp, it says an Issa Deraisa. And what's the Issa Deraisa if you're going to ask me? This is the fire. Okay. So I'm telling you, you can't move around the fire. Okay. And now a lamp you could move around. Something doesn't stim, Rabbi. I sound like that idiot Balabazar. Something doesn't stim, Rabbi, right? Something doesn't stim, Rabbi. Or Rosh Hashanah, he says also in Moira Eish, he has a tzad to be mekel. So Rosh Hashanah says, what's going to happen if you move around the lamps and this and that? He says, before you know it, they'll be turning on the lamps. That's what he says. This is that's very big to make these gzeras, right? What's the difference between that and half the things we spoke about, right? What's the difference between, okay, with Moshe's gzera, I understand. Asi the Chlufe, I understand more. Shlomo Zalman's, I understand less. But for Moshe's, I understand a lot more. So Moshe goes on. You should know this for Moshe, this was his thing for Moshe. Rabbi Badner asks him in the book about moving around. Just one moment, sorry. Just one moment. He asks him in the book about, I didn't talk about it this month. We'll probably talk about it next month when we learn more about, that chelik of Shabbos, about the Zarei, all those things we have to learn. So there's all needed on Shabbos about moving around plants. So flowers, you're allowed to move around. Because cut flowers are malach the heter and they're not alive and whatever. So there's no problem. But what about a potted plant? A plant, it says all rules if you're inside, outside, and if it's a cheres, if it's this type of flower pot, that type of flower pot, because it's yoinik from the ground and whatnot, and ganz meises, the Shemitah, which is coming up next year. You have a plant in the house, you're allowed to take it out of the house. And now ganz meises, Rav Moshe told them, write in the book that to move a pot on Shabbos is muksa. So what do you mean? In the art school book, he goes through how much, if it's this type of pot and that type of pot and this type of pot. And Moshe said, when you're writing an English book, you don't write like that because English books are written for people that read English books. So not everybody who reads an English book is the biggest Talmud Chacham. He's not the smallest Amorit sometimes. So maybe you're going to write in there a plant and this and that. What did he say? Yeah, it's mutter. That's what he's going to say. So that's why Rabbi Badner writes in his book, where Moshe told me to write a lamp is muksa, flower pot is muksa. I would imagine if you go with that out of sight, it means like this. It means Be'etzim, Rav Moshe probably held, which Taka, like you're seeing in the story, that really it's a kli, because the whole reason why a fire is not a kli is because it's mamish and not tangible. I don't know why. So now you have a moifis, you have a fire, which is a kli. So therefore it's a kli. We'll see in a minute. Maybe it's machta liser, maybe machta heter, even who knows. But akapanim, it's a kli. So therefore it's a kli. You can move it. So Rav Moshe will hold, I can move it because I'm the God Lador. And then maybe somebody that learned the sugya, maybe it's a malkum for him to be mekel, maybe not, because you have to know who you hang out with and who he hang out with. Okay, maybe. But But one thing is bar. It's a chayr when you're telling people. So then you have to tell them a lamp is awesome. Lefi that, what'll be by a fluorescent lamp and a LED lamp. Once you're in this world of this, balabatishkeit, this hard to understand thing, you can't start you're going to start explaining to them, the fluorescent light, I'm allowed to turn on in Shabbos? No, you're not allowed to turn on in Shabbos. So and why? That one is maybe al tavara, LED light is maybe not al tavara. So then mistama, I could hear chilukim. I don't know if I have a right to make these. We're in the world now of Rav Moshe's gzeira, right? So I don't know, maybe someone will say, Rav Moshe only said it by something that you can make a bari mar'esh on. But everyone knows you can't make a bar mar'esh on fluorescent. Everybody knows, so they'll understand. You'll explain to them the lumdus. On a LED light, you can't make a bar mar'esh. On a fluorescent, you can't. So that's not asid lechufe. That's just like it's just like a fan. Which in a minute we're going to say you're allowed to move around. No, so maybe I don't know the answer to this question. What? Oh, wait, we didn't get to Rosh Hashanah. Give me 1 second. We'll get to Rosh Hashanah. You'll come to make a mistake. And you'll say, well, I can move around lamps, so I can move around fire, because fire is lamp. It's the exact same thing. You're not going to know this whole lumdus, that a fire is not a kli. I mean, we worked very hard today to try to understand the lumdus, right? So, and the Chazon Ish, Lefir Moshe didn't even know the lumdus, right? So somebody's going to make a mistake over here. You're going to say, a fire, I can't move but a lamp I couldn't. Well, what's going on? No, so it must be a fire I couldn't move, and it's just a chumrah, and stomach. I have a good ma'isa. So somebody once moved the leichter tray in front of me, right? And there was nothing on the table. There was nothing on the leichter tray, right? So I told the person that you're not really allowed to do that. You're not really allowed to do that, right? It wasn't like the leichter tray had other things on it, right? So the person told me that I hold like Rosh Zalman. That's what the person told me. I said, you mean the bottle caps? No, like everything goes back to that Rosh Zalman, the bottle caps, or keeping one day in Eretz Yisrael if you have an apartment. Which Rosh Zalman do you mean? So he said there's a Rosh Zalman about Muksa. He didn't know what he was talking about. He didn't know what he was talking about, and he went to find what he was talking about. And then he came to me afterward. He called me and he told me, I found it. It's a Rosh Zalman. Somebody told him, that evil Talmid Chacham that she tells you the things when you call her up, when you're trying to find the Makor. It's Rosh Zalman. So if I say he just read Rosh Zalman the wrong way, Rosh Zalman had it said that, a fire is a kli in that part of Rosh Zalman, and therefore a light is kli, and what's the difference between a kli and a fire? So you've got how it's in Hasi L'chlufe. It was Tucker. It could happen, and that's the guy, that's Ramosha, which I thought that was Ramosha. So Ramosha then in the next tshuva, this one is in Chav Gimel. This tshuva was written in Menachemav Tavshin Mem Hey. Who knows how many months later Ramosha was nifter? Like 7 months later, Ramosha was nifter. He wasn't writing at this point. Ramosha stopped writing in Tavshin Mem Dalet already. He stopped writing there in 1980, but 1984 was the last tshuva. So this was all Baal Peh. So over here in the next tshuva, so he writes like this, and this is where you see what at least they asked for Moshe Baal Peh. It's Baruch they asked us for Moshe Baal Peh. There's a different place in this volume where it writes that Moshe stopped writing at this point. Even the previous tshuva was also Baal Peh, I'm saying. So he says like this. He says, Kanira, there's a big mabucha in what I said, because in Igros Moshe Gimel Mentes, in Igros Moshe Dalet Tzadi Aleph, he talks about, so I was asked, Bikashti, I was asked to be mefarsim my das. Hine klei chashmal, all electric appliances, things, whatever. Hagam shemuf'alim al yedei chashmal, they're using the chashmal, they're mechuber to chashmal, and even a menorah's chashmal. Meaning even a lamp. L'maisa ein a muksa b'Shabbos, and they're mutter. Elim Kain, they're Kalim Shoisim Malach, unless it's like, an electric organ, a piano or something that you're doing an Isser on or whatever. About, let's say they're on already, Pulasim Meina Malachas Shabbos, right? It says, let's say the lamp is on, or the fan is on, right? Again, in this truth, he's not going any difference between a light and a lamp and a fan. So it says, if they're on, so why is that a Malachta L'Yesser? Why is that a Malachta L'Yesser? This is what Reb Moshe and Gimel Mem Tes wants to be Machadish. We spoke about it way back when. Reb Moshe had a tzad to say, if when I have to turn on a fan in order for it to work, that doesn't necessarily make it into a Kli Shemalach L'Yesser. A Kli Shemalach L'Yesser is a Kli that the function, the use of it is to do Isser. If in order to get it on, I have to do an Isser to get it on, that doesn't necessarily make it into a Malach L'Yesser. Think about all the Malach L'Yessers of Chazal, a hammer. So to use it, you have to do an Isser. Right? A grater, I don't know. To use it, you have to do an Isser. Here, the fan is the most wonderful mutter tika kli in the world. You have to do an Isser to make a hammer, you have to do an Isser to make a table. So a table is a Malachta L'Yesser. Okay, there's an obvious chilik, right? Because here each time I have to turn it on. Okay. So Moshe says in Gimel Memtes, on that shaila about a fan, I'm not sure. Like Zal Loshin Moshe says, he says it's noted to me that such a thing could be a kli shemalachta leheter when it's on. When it's off, it'll be a kli shemalachta leisser because you have to get it on. You have to do an isser to get it on. Interesting that it would change whatever. But he says, but even if it is muksa, the most muksa it's going to be is a malachta leisser. I knew that in order to get the usage out of it, you got to do an isser. But it's zikr not going to be gufay, which that's what you saw in the art scroll book, right? That's what you saw, that in the art scroll book, he basically said that Moshe was willing to move around the lamp, the tzarech gufay, and the tzarech makayim. I know it's not in muksa, machnas guf. Over here, he's explaining his shita, and he says, look, elim kain, these are kalim that you do malacha, valim hulasa, menim malacha Shabbos, ein lach shivik malach liyasir, makman shebekavim koichan meidel v'aser. You're not going to say it's a malach l'isser because it gets its koyach from isser, from electricity. So what? The davar shel nachta the iser, the pirish is davar she'oisim by iser, something that you do iser with it. A fan is the most mutterdige thing in the ganze Welt. You sit there with a fan, it blows on you, you blow back, and shalom al Yisrael. V'loy davar shenasa idei iser, not something that came by day iser. Rak sarach lizor, you have to be careful not to take out the wire. They haven't zeichen. Let's say you want to be machmir. Are you allowed to be machmir? In other words, and to not consider it a malachta leheter. At that point, he was calling it a malachta leheter. Are you allowed to be machmir? So he says, Hagam shani ba'atzmi eini noyikein. I'm not noyik this chumrah. I'm not noyik this chumrah. Harishus the other. He's allowed to be machmir. Moshe Feinstein gave him rishus to be machmir. But you can't be machmir and consider it to be a muksa machmas gufay. That you're not allowed to be machmir. You're only allowed to be machmir and to consider the klisha malachta the esa. Okay, and what's called Sargufa Mekaimai? So that's all the Meisim. He says here, I am what I said elsewhere. Okay, this tshuva of Moshe was said balpeh. You can't give it the credence of of a tshuva, of a written tshuva. You can't give it a tshuva. But I definitely hear the way that the Art School book writes it. I can understand that the way he writes it is that it's not Gufa, Moshe himself did it, and upon him that you'd be allowed to move it to Gufa Mekayma, because that you see Moshe certainly seems to be makel. He had a tzad even lachal heter. That's in the Tshuva and Gimel Memtes. The only thing I'm saying is that I don't know. Moshe didn't seem to want that this that this psak should go viral, right? That's l'chayr, and I don't know. That's a shtickul kasha in the Art School book. I don't know. It's interesting. I mean, it seems to be told Rabbi Badner that you should tell people, I don't know. I once saw something which it bothered me a little bit. I don't know. Somebody sent me, I gave a shiur about this. And I said that Ramosha's, I gave a shiur, not in this life and over here. Somebody's listening to this shiur after listening. Nobody's listening to the 70. I'm not so worried someone's going to start listening to the 78th shiur on Hilchos Muktzah. And I'm not so worried. If you knew what went on over here, you'd be listening. But so that's why I don't feel so nervous talking to you guys and telling you the emes, right? But I once spoke to people that I was nervous telling them the emes. It was a shiur in Hilchos Muktzah. It was given to Balabatim or whatever. And I said in the shiur that Ramosha's opinion was that a person shouldn't be makel. On the Shiur, it's a big Shiur. Ramosha's opinion was that a person shouldn't be makel. I think I said it right. No, you guys, you agree? The way I just said it? What? This last tshuva, again, this is written by a grandson. No. That's part of the question we have here. This is, I'm trying to say it in a politically correct way. Again, usually I don't care. But this is written by a grandson that there's a lot of kashas over here about things that it's very weird, right? In the tshuva right before, in the same book, he writes, Asi l'chlufe. He wrote that tshuva. So he holds that tshuva as emes. Right? So then what happened over here? Ramosha, in this tshuva, something's very weird. Ramosha says, I want you to be mefarsim my das. Who does he want you to be mefarsim my das? There's something weird here. I don't have an answer to this. Right? So I guess to the loimdim, maybe that's why he felt the right to write in Igros Moshe, because Igros Moshe is for the loimdim. I'm not bothered so much. It's just the way it's written here is he wants to be mefarsim. Who does he want to be mefarsim to? There's nothing he wants to be mefarsim to you guys. You guys are learning the sugya. More than that, not. But the way I said it, I would imagine that's the right thing. I don't know. There's shtickul kasha on the Art School book. If this is true, nobody can know. We're all dealing with hearsay over here, right? So it's very interesting. Afterward, somebody, like in all these types of shiurim, so somebody wrote, like one of these idiot blogs, and he just wrote like Rabbi Kallus said this and this, and ayin. And he doesn't write ayin because then Amaratzim wouldn't be able to read it. But it's known that Rabbi Feinstein held that it's mutter, and he did it himself, and he told everybody that it's mutter. And I don't know. I know that too, idiot. Right? I don't know, but not everything has to go out to the public, right? So somebody would ask me in this room, are you allowed to move around a lamp? If you're a Moshe, allowed to move around the lamp. The answer is it's our gufa mekayma. And if you're in a bind, you probably shouldn't do it lechatchila. I try never to do it lechatchila. Certainly not. And if I could do it, I don't think I ever did actually ever move a lamp, because you'll see why in a moment. But even if you're Moshe, I wouldn't do it, because I would want that people should know that I don't move lamps, because it's not the best thing. The fluorescent gzeira is a further gzeira. The LED lamp is like a further gzeira. Okay, nothing, but just give me 1 second, right? If I can move it with a shinoi, I'll move it with a shinoi, right? If accidentally when I'm moving it in the shinoi, I wind up actually carrying it. I won't sit a tinus or whatever. Just a moment. But again, it's definitely should be avoided. You see that was the Ratzon of Ramosha. Mistama should be avoided. Just a moment. Let me just finish each section. One second. Mistama should be avoided. Ramosha would have wanted it to be avoided. I'll let the Elam ask. What do you want to ask? Yeah. So Lefi this. Yeah. Lefi this is a blackout. A good example. It's a good example. A blackout is like, pretty difficult matziv, right? Pretty shots of chak. It takes away a lot of the einig of Shabbos and whatever. So, you want to take it here. You only have one of these lights, so you're at the table and then you get, so what's your brera? To go to the toilet, right? That's a bathtub. It's not cool. That's not cool. That's not cool, right? So just a moment. Or try changing a diaper, right? You want to, you try changing a diaper without baby wipes, right? Not so simple. So, Dad wants a blackout years ago, and I knew this tshuva. So, I told my wife, take it with a shinoi and whatever, and and if you can't do it with a shinoi, whatever. And it's also LED light. It's, I said, enough times. I sound like a teenage high school girl now, right? See, you get my point, right? Okay. Akapanim, that's our Moshe. What? Why is it Muktzah Malchus? It's the most usable kli in the world. It's the most wonderful usable kli in the world. Why is it Muktzah Malchus? Why is it Muktzah Malchus? What's the answer? What? So now, Lefi this. So then now when you're done, at least Lefi Reb Moshe, the kosher lamp. In other words, the one that has the one which just turns around, Mutter Gomer, you're not doing anything, right? What? No, you're not. It's not attached. It's not attached. What's that? You could do that on a fire too, right? You can do it on fire too. It's not attached. What's the problem? But you see, I'm not touching the thing which is touching the thing. It's not the fire. It's not. I don't hear that. It's not. You're not moving the candle. You take it. There's a shade around it. You're not. That shade comes up. I don't mean like shade in. I mean like the shade. Right? The shade comes up. It's not attached. You're not touching the lights. It's not a bus. It's a mutter shalom Yisrael. The other one, with the with the arm and whatever, and you close that thing. So that's all one big connected thing. So what's their cheshbon? Obviously, they're taking on that really that's in. You're allowed to move around lamps. Right? But what am I going to do? It's attached by a wire. If you move it too far, you're going to, pull it out of the wall, right? So they came up with this mahalach. They're going obviously with this Reb Moshe, with Asi Lechlufe. They're going with that type of a gang. And therefore, so let's say even the worst case scenario, maybe it's even Malach al Heter, okay? And maybe it's Malach al Yeser. If it's Malach al Yeser, you're allowed to move that thing, right? You're moving the shade, and that's a tzarech mekayma because it's ruining the area, and I'll be able to sleep, and I'll be able to gufay to open it if I want the light, and shalom al Yisrael. Sorry? What? I guess for Moshe was it's somewhat maybe like I'm saying, like maybe Moshe was himself a Moshe was the king, and maybe Ulai you could say that he didn't know that somebody was watching him, maybe, or he felt that the person was watching him is a Talmid Chacham, which he is, So one of those, right? What? Again, we didn't get to the other sheet yet, but the fear of Moshe, it'll be a Klisha Matali Isser. The worst it'll be is Klisha Matali Isser, which makes sense in Reb Moshe's idea. And it's a lead probably and whatever. Right? And therefore it'll be Tzarku from Makayma. You'd have to be able to do Tzarku from Makayma. What? Again, I myself, I'm not going to buy that one because because Reb Moshe told me, that Asi Lechlufe, I read English books. So Moshe is telling me Asi Lechlufe, but certainly, kids might not understand this and whatever. There's Asi Lechlufe around, whatever. What would I do if I was in a bedroom, I was staying in someone's house, and they put this thing in my room and they didn't ask me and they put it in and I can't sleep because the light's on or whatever, right? So I tell my wife, because, I can't sleep, or maybe with a shinoi, and maybe Ramosha, Lefi Ramosha, Mekem Falazich, what? Again, I'm going now with Reb Moshe. I didn't finish yet. Right now we're in Reb Moshe. We didn't even start the What happened today? No, this is crazy. What's going on? It's because you guys are coming late. No? That's why. We did the Halachos of Bishul. That's why, because we did the Halachos of Bishul. Sorry? with actual fire. So that's a basis. Hanech lener shemen upsila dave basis to the fire. See, this is we're having this as a chlufe right here. We're having this as a chlufe. What? No, wait. You're talking about a fire. You just said.
Yes, but I'm saying both fire.
Which one?
An incandescent lamp is a fire.
No, but that's what Moshe is saying. It has a din of a kli. Moshe is going that it's a kli because it's tangible, right? It's something that there's a chafza. There's a chafza. What? Yeah, lefi this, an urn, a hot plate, these things, you'll be allowed to move the tzarku from a kaima. Yeah, it's a huge chedushin. Well, the same thing. The fear of Moshe. Look, Rabbi said, the chazanish, is it so pashit that it's also? Let's say you go with noilad, so there's no noilad, right? I don't know, it's the same fire, that's it, the same incandescent, whatever. If you go with, that it's kavua bim koimai, so it depends what it is. I don't know if it's a flashlight, it's not kavua bim koimai, right? If you go with the mahalach of what was the other mahalach? Shtamshis is bim koimai. What was there? Derek, which derek? Oh, Shemi Chaber, thank you. If you go with the Shemi Chaber, it's no Shemi. You don't move it around because Shemi Chaber. You don't have any Shemi Chaber. You never Shemi Chaber. So I don't know. Even the Chazanish. Can you imagine going to Bnei Brak and telling them there's no problem. You're allowed to move around lamps, or with Makoimo at least, or whatever. So this is this. Come again. The what? Okay, so that could be, but it's not that. It's not the chafetz the Chazal had. So it's not so pashut to. How could you make a light plug if Chazal didn't have this chafetz? What? You didn't say it's a flame. You said it's you're over an avara if you do it. That doesn't make the thing into a fire. It makes it that you're over an avara. Does it sound like you? The truth is that maybe you should make a case. Rabbi Yashiv held like you. Rabbi Yashiv held. I don't know the reason why a fire is muksa. So therefore, anything that is a din of a fire is muksa. That's it. That's where the chumrah came from, right? Now, with that, Rabbi Yashiv should have said that a fluorescent light, that's not a fire, right? And a LED light is not a fire, right? So yeah, at least the fluorescent light and the LED light, you should be able to move around Tzar Gufa Makoyme, right? At least that, right? So Rabbi Yashiv said no. When I asked him, he said no. I asked him about fluorescent. I don't know if I asked him about LED, but he said no. He said, why not? He said, it's a light plug. It's a light plug. What's the light plug? It's kasher oven. Maybe the light plug is the chlufe. Like that. These are not things that are bar. And that's why, I heard it from the mouth of the king. It's hard to actually move these things on Shabbos once you've heard those things. After it holds that it's an isser of tzar gufa, it's also tzar gufa mekoyma is aser. Right? All right, Slade. Well, Sham Zam I'll do tomorrow. Well, what's going to be? You guys have what to do during the Seder? Because the test. You finished the test yesterday, no?
Second.
Well, the second. What? All right, just today. All right. Well, we'll continue tomorrow.
I think what Garrett is trying to say, similar shot like that.